I drive a Ford. Well, I think it was made in Mexico. I mean, you can buy a Toyota made in Kentucky, or you can buy a Ford made in Mexico. But by the way, the steering wheel may be made in the United States or something else, and how you do the tariff. And, the domestic car industry is a North American business now. It's so idiotic and stupid, you can't believe it.
And now for our listener questions. They actually seem to get better every week, James. David in Lawrence, Kansas, home of the Allen Fieldhouse, wants to know, what do the polls say, or really the overall question of Hispanic support for Trump in the wake of all these ICE raids? You think it's eroding?
Well, I mean, certainly the data shows that he's had substantial loss among younger, not white males. That, I think that's a fact. That's something that I do look for. And again, what a lot of younger Hispanic males are leaving because they don't see anything being done about the cost of living.
Yeah.
All right, Harris was not that good a candidate. Trump gave him a kind of macho kind of thing, but he's losing them. And I think cost of living matters more to young Hispanic males than immigration does. That's my guess. I could be wrong. Or could be proven
I think
wrong.
you're right, and I would add healthcare. I think healthcare is very important. You put those two issues. A smart man one time said, James, I don't know if you've ever heard this, it's about the economy, stupid, and don't forget healthcare. And I think healthcare matters a lot to Hispanics.
Well, what I'd say to that is healthcare is economic. I mean, anybody that does focus groups, and people say, I'm one sickness away from bankruptcy. Or
right.
When you have an illness, it takes up one thing, I just make a point of personal privilege here, but they talk about 28-year-old, who don't work, sitting on the sofa, getting free government health care. Shit, what 28-year-old goes to the doctor or thinks they're going to get sick? Okay, you could probably insure every 28-year-old out of your back pocket if you had to.
James, I was the son of a doctor, and the first time after I moved to Washington that I went to see a doctor was, 5 years after I had moved here, 6 years after. It's when I had appendicitis. So I understand that point.
I can assure you that unemployed 28-year-olds, and not by the way, 92% of people working age on Medicaid do work. It's such bullshit.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, that's what's breaking the country, is 28-year-olds going to the doctor 2 times a year on the government dime. It's too stupid for words.
Bobby in Columbus, Ohio. Bobby, I hate to tell you, I think your Buckeyes are going to get a whomping when they face the Texas Longhorns later this month. But anyway, we'll see. What is the Trump administration going to do, Bobby asked, with all that tariff money they bring? And I assume it's not going towards paying down the debt. A couple points I make, Bobby. Number one, there's still some really serious legal challenges of this tariffs. Now, I know you can't count on this high court to rule against Trump, but these are not frivolous cases. So he may have some of these knocked down. Secondly, he's not going to bring in nearly as much money as he says. And, the main effect will be that you're going to pay more, Bobby, not that the government's going to have more. And as for paying down the debt, it is whatever they bring in is infinitesimal compared to the added deficit created by the big, beautiful, ugly bill.
So one of the things, we have a Sunday Zoom call that I was on all the time, but he was in Europe in Normandy, so he didn't this Sunday. But Roger Altman, and this is a very important point I want to make about all of this, referred to a column that Jason Furman wrote, and that tariffs are going to cause, it's not only you'll feel it immediately, but they're going to have an effect on GDP, a negative effect. So the tariffs do raise money. Okay, that is true.
Right.
But the difference between having 2% growth and 1.75% growth in terms of government revenue is enormous. I'm not smart enough to do the math, but over a period of time, and that's going to be the effect of this. It's not going to be that one day you're going to wake up and you go, oh my God, the tariffs have ruined the economy. but it's pretty clear it's going to take away from overall growth in the United States. And my favorite tariff story worth repeating is a guy in Montana Knife Company. He was a Trumper, and he made knives. It was ultimate Montana, red state, Trump, male, makes knives. And he can't hardly make it because the machinery in it, I don't know, the lathe or whatever, you can only buy it from Germany. They don't even make it in the United States.
Right.
And then there's a certain kind of steel that they don't make. And the guy said, he showed the receipts for what he's having to pay. And, I drive a Ford. Well, I think it was made in Mexico. I mean, Jesse was right. You can buy a Toyota made in Kentucky, or you can buy a Ford made in Mexico. But by the way, the steering wheel may be made in the United States or something else, and how you do the tariff. And, the domestic car industry is a North American business now. It's so idiotic and stupid, you can't believe it. And then they announce these big settlements with Japan. Japan's going to invest half $500 billion in the United States over the next year. Well, they will invest that anyway. Well, you think they make Nissans and Toyotas and Hondas and everything else, and Kentucky and Tennessee, and they make BMWs in South Carolina. His economic stupidity is really a sight to behold.
That it is. Barry in Mahwah, New Jersey. Mahwah, New Jersey. Barry asks, as a registered Democrat, I'm inundated with donation texts from every conceivable candidate and issue. It borders on insane. How does anyone know if the solicitations are legitimate, and is there a voter burnout? But the first question is, how do you know if it's legitimate?
Well, don't even look at it. Okay, you don't need to worry whether it's legitimate or illegitimate. And what I would say is I would pick out different campaigns, in a competitive district, and do your homework a little bit, because your money is valuable. Certainly you can look at the competitive Senate races. A lot of them are going to be coming up. And don't pay any attention to, and you get a lot of text from me. Okay, if you get one from me, it's legit. It's from the DNC or something like that. But not sure I would respond to my own text sometimes. I might, but
Geez, I
I
always
think
do,
people.
James.
Right, here you go. I think people care enough to do just a modicum of homework and think of a couple of 3 House seats in kind of urban areas where your dollar will go a long way. The same thing with the Senate. I think that Senate recruiting had potential to go very well this year.
Yeah.
That I would certainly think about Iowa. I would think about Ohio. And I would definitely think about Mississippi. But I would give it right to the candidate. I don't have a lot of faith in some of these state parties.
Well, I've just elevated Ohio in my watch list because the word is that Sherrod Brown is seriously thinking of going, and I think this may be the perfect environment for Sherrod Brown
Could be.
To come back. But Barry, that's right.
Same with Iowa.
And I agree, Iowa and Michigan's an important race. And Barry, you could have a one or two congressional races in your home state of New Jersey, and next door in Pennsylvania, you're going to have 3 or 4. So there's lots of places for you to contribute.
I'm on the Republican text or something that keeps it. I mean, they're like, Patriot, I told you to send money. You haven't responded yet. I'm going to tell President Trump on you.
Oh my God,
I mean, that's the kind of level of fundraising that they do. I'm serious. I save them all. Somebody ever wants to do a story on, and texting people is the new way to go. That's the most efficient thing you can do. You don't cost you pay for postage stamp, you don't have to pay for anything.
I'm going to tell.
And I don't. I can say stop, but they're so amusing. I don't want to give it up.
Catherine in Georgetown, Texas, says, "What are your thoughts about the Stephen Miller Russell Voigt machine enabling Trump to stay in office in perpetuity?" Catherine, at the risk of naivete here, I think Trump will do anything he can get away with. They're going to try to rig the 26 election. They're trying to fix the economic statistics. They will do anything. The rule of law is irrelevant to them. I don't think they can get away with this. Not that they wouldn't try, but I just think there's enough history, enough law that this would be even a step too far for this this Trump loyal Supreme Court. And if I'm wrong, I apologize. But I think of all the things to worry about, I right now wouldn't have that in my top 10.
Well, I don't know, man. Russell Voigt may be the most dangerous person in America. First of all, he's not stupid. He's thought all of this out. This is something that they had been planning forever. It's right there in Project 2025. Stephen Miller is, strikes me as one of the most weird people I've ever seen, but he has real clout. And I think they're running around. Pete Hegseth, I don't think he knows his ass from a hole in the ground. But Russell Voigt is a lot of things, but stupid is not one of them. Not at all.
Yeah.
And he's a fanatic, and this is like kind of lifetime mission he is, and he's executing.
Yeah, no, that is the case, sadly. But I don't think they're going to get away with letting Trump stay in office after 20. First of all, I'm not sure. I don't think the voters will let him stay in office.
Right. That'd be right. Could you imagine what the town hall would look like if Trump wouldn't leave office?
Oh my God. Oh.
God, you imagine how many people would be marching? Oh, no, that's not. I very little that I wouldn't put past these people, but that's one thing I wouldn't.
Yeah, I had a wild thought. I don't know. I was on a long airplane trip back from Paris yesterday, and I had a wild thought about that. I think Trump might try to do something to push his son, running mate or whatever have you, but he ain't going to be on a ticket in 28. Nate in Leavenworth, Kansas.
Oh wow!
Who is free in Leavenworth, Kansas, asked, for the love of God, tell Kamala Harris not to run for president again. I'm terrified that party people will vote for her because that's what party people do. James.
I'm not. Don't be terrified. And I think that she wisely chose not to run for governor of California, and I believe this with all my heart. Anybody that had anything to do with 2024, the party wants to move on from that. And I don't say it's anybody's fault, but I'm just telling you that, and this goes to Waltz too. I wouldn't run again. That would be if I were your friend, if I were your chief advisor. I'm doing this not from a personal standpoint. This is not going to be the environment that a 2024 Democrat, that the Democrats are not going to look to anybody that had anything to do with the 2024 campaign. I really believe.
I completely agree, and I would add one thing. Joe Biden, would you please go and take the restful retirement you so richly reserve, and don't speak out. People really don't want to hear your views now. And when I read the story the other day that some of the people close to him are going to try to seek some kind of vengeance against the Nancy Pelosi's, get over it. Get over it. Just, stay in Rehoboth and enjoy your grandchildren.
I had a couple of people complain about Harris, going on TV, but she wrote a book. Everybody loses a presidential campaign. She should be on TV. That's fine. I don't think that's, she's entitled to do that. But I don't think it would be wise for her to run for the nomination of the Democratic Party. Yeah. I just don't. I think it would be in her interest.
I agree. John in Sonoma, California. Ask, isn't Trump's gaping vulnerability his ties to the heartless billionaires and arrogant elites? And isn't Epstein the icon for all that's wrong with Trump? Seems like a good message to me. Certainly I would say Epstein is a great message for the corruption and the scandal of this administration. And I think you tie the ties to the billionaires and the arrogant elites, you tie that into that big, beautiful bill that took care of all of them and really screwed people on Medicaid. There are veterans who aren't going to get food stamps because of that big, beautiful bill. But every one of those billionaires, Steve Witkoff and all the others, they're going to do great. So I think you can tie those together, James.
Well, sometimes they're saying the broken clock is right twice a day. We would kind of scoff with these people, a lot of really right wingers and, deep in the internet and, really right-wing podcasts said, look, there's a coastal elite out there that are harvesting young girls and using them for their own pleasure. And this goes very deep. And, you got to say they were right. It just didn't have the right coastal elite. But by any stretch of the definition, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are the personification of coastal elites. So sometimes you got to say that, hey, these people had a point. They wasn't at the Comet Pizza. It was actually in Trump Tower in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. Andrew in Jacksonville, Florida says, I'm old enough to remember the safe, legal, and rare slogan during the Clinton administration. The Democrats embraced to talk about abortion. Why can't Democrats adopt a similar slogan for immigration? What about safe, sane, and humane?
They just shut down the last Planned Parenthood facility in Louisiana, and of course, the governor's taking all the credit in the world. So, I got to say that when the Kansas thing came in 2022, the elections, I thought that abortion was a really good issue for Democrats. It didn't play a big role in 2024. And for whatever reason, and I'm just being very frank here, it doesn't seem to be driving a lot of voting behavior. And it's my only explanation is people that live in blue states said, I want to always have access to the kind of reproductive care that people need. And maybe the people in red states have kind of quit. I don't know, but I thought it would be a more prominent issue in American politics in 2024 and even today than it's turned out.
Well, James, I think you're correct, but let me give you an important caveat. If, as I think, could well happen, and Trump orders the FDA, he'll try not to have any fingerprints, to crack down on the mail on the mailing of the birth control pill, because they're going, states like Texas and Massachusetts are sending that medication to people in Texas and Louisiana and elsewhere. And your state, Louisiana, has tried to bring a criminal case against them. Don't have any chance. But if the FDA does that, they really try to crack down on the Medicaid pill. I think that'll revive that issue.
I mean, and the pill, mifepristone, I might be mispronouncing, that's overwhelmingly today number of abortions are as a result of that pill. It's just going to be more and more going forward. I don't think anybody doubts that. And yeah, he could do something. These states could make it, a felony to send it to, if you live in Louisiana and you get a prescription from a doctor in New York or get it filled, they're going to make that illegal. And, people need to stop thinking of this as like back alley abortions or coat hangers or whatever we did. It's more and more about this, the drug-induced pregnancy termination thing. So yes, it's going to be. And yeah, I don't know that Trump will fool with it. He's got some political survival instincts, and I don't
He
know if
does,
that's the hill he's going.
except as you look at the numbers, and they really are growing a lot in places like Texas, I think that very powerful right to life constituency may demand something. And,
They might. I'll put it past them. They do anything. It's
yeah,
punitive. Look,
yeah.
it hurts women. God damn it. Your birth control, put an aspirin between your knees and keep it there. And that's the best medical birth. I mean, I don't know. They're crazy.
Yeah, no, I think that's right.
But
And you can't, I mean, the legal issue, the legal threat is really almost non existent because states like New York and I believe Massachusetts have passed so called shield laws. So those doctors are protected. I mean, if you're in Louisiana and you want to sue a doctor in New York, you know what? You got to do it in New York. And you ain't going to win.
I don't trust these bastards. They could, they would like prosecute the woman.
Well,
they're crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't kid yourself.
Well,
they're that crazy.
That brings back the issue, I think. Then I agree. It certainly, if not vanished, it certainly lessened as political issue in 24. That would bring it back. But listen, please keep those letters coming in. If we didn't get to yours this week, we'll try to get to it next week. I think the hardest chore I have here is picking which, 6 or 7 to read every week because there's so many good ones. So thank you very much.